something that's really important here is that I am not a qualified financial advisor. So everything we're going to be talking about today is pretty much for entertainment and information purposes only. Again, if you want to find out more, have some financial tips specifically to your situation, you should have a chat with a financial advisor. And the reason I'm actually saying that to you is because we are in the UK and there's a lot of regulation in the UK. And if I don't say that I'm not a qualified financial advisor, I can get in trouble with the Financial Conduct Authority, apparently. I mean, honestly, do you want to take financial advice from a guy who does his GP clinic in his pajama at home? Probably not, but this is from one of the videos that I made. Right, okay, so Kanye West, right? So you either love Kanye or you hate Kanye. But this is a quote from Kanye West: having money isn't everything, but not having it is. So again, there are going to be a lot of reasons why you are coming to the UK. But I want you guys to have a better understanding of what you can expect to make by coming here. And again, why are we talking about this? Now, this definitely isn't to brag. This isn't to trick you. This isn't to kind of entice you to come to the UK, dropping everything. When you are thinking of coming to the UK, you're weighing up a lot of pros and cons, and it is a very difficult situation. But the reason we're really talking about this is so that you can have a sound financial plan. Because if you don't have a sound financial plan, you don't know how much you'll be making. It doesn't matter how much you make, you'll still be broke. And so by knowing how much you can expect to make and then having a good plan, again, you can be rich in that way. And rich means different things for many different people. And we're definitely going to talk about that as well at some point. Right. So you will be familiar with the concept that in the UK and in other countries as well, after medical school, you start as a junior. And then as a junior, you have less responsibility. And at the same time, you will be making less money. But as you level up in your career, again, your responsibility goes up, but also your income goes up. And so we're going to be going through each of those levels. And I'm going to tell you exactly what your basic salary is, to the point where I will also show you one of my pay slips, just so that you can understand that a little bit better. So right out of medical school, you're a foundation year 1 doctor. You're a junior doctor. In old money, in old terms, that used to be called a house officer. And some people still use that term. Now, once you finish that 1 year of foundation 1, you're a foundation year 2 doctor. You're still considered a junior doctor at that point, but you jump into the ranks of a senior house officer. Now, after your F2, you can decide to go into specialty training of some description, and then you'll be an ST1 or a GP ST1 if you decide to go into GP training. At that point, you're still a senior house officer. You're still an SHO. So you might see job adverts that say SHO level. So this gives you an idea of where you are. Now, after ST2, you become a registrar. So again, GP ST3 or ST3 and above. At that point, you have a lot of responsibility, especially if you're the medical registrar on call in a hospital, which is like the most important job. Again, a lot of responsibility, but you will get more money. And then finally, when you finish your training, you can finally become a GP and a consultant. And realistically, money-wise, that's where you make the most money. So what does my pay depend on? Well, your pay depends on a lot of things. The first thing is the level, the pay grade, the thing that we just talked about right now. The second is your on-call commitments or your out of hours or extended hours. So in the UK, normal hours are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But as doctors, you will do a lot of out of hours, extended hours. You'll be doing weekends, you'll be doing nights. That's just normal. Just because people are sick 24/7, people don't get sick between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So obviously they need to be able to have a chat with the doctor outside of those hours, but you will get a premium on top of that. And what that premium is something called banding. So this applies specifically to hospital jobs. A banding is basically a percentage that goes on top of your basic salary. It can be anywhere between 20% and 80%. And realistically, that number depends on how bad your on-call schedule is. So if you're doing every other weekend or you're doing nights all the time, that percentage will be much higher. But if you're doing, for instance, 1 weekend in 5, 1 weekend in 6, again, that banding will be much lower. Are you full-time or are you part-time? So a lot of you guys answered that you're coming to the UK to have a better work-life balance. And part of that is the ability to work part-time. And it's super, super easy to work part-time in the UK. And even myself as a GP trainee, I decided to work part-time for a bit because I had small kids at that time. So I wanted to have 1 day off in the week where I could just hang out with my kids and just get that experience. And the pay is good enough that you can actually afford that in the UK. Full-time, again, is roughly 40 hours. But going part-time is super easy. And people actually encourage that. Right. And finally, your pay can also depend on your negotiation skills. So you might be familiar with the term locum. So locum is a doctor that basically covers shifts that need covering and that suddenly need covering because of sickness or someone has gone off or gone on maternity. So the hospital or the employer will get in touch with you or get in touch with an agency that you're registered with and will say, Mike, are you free? And you're like, well, yeah, kind of. Do you want to come and do some extra work and get some extra money? Well, at that point, if you call me up and you want me to start working in 2 hours, which means I have to get out of my pajamas, which is obviously a big faff, I'm going to say, well, you know what? I want 50% more of the going rate, if that's okay. And if they're desperate, they'll say, yes, that's fine. So at that point, again, you're being kind of a businessman in a sense, or businesswoman. Where can you learn more about salaries in the UK? From the BMA. So the BMA is the British Medical Association. It's like the union for doctors in the UK, and they set certain standards in terms of how much doctors should be paid depending on their level. Right. Okay. So let's show you some numbers. Finally. Right. So as of April 2021, when you're a junior doctor, a house officer, your basic salary is £28,808. But consider banding. So if you are doing a lot of on calls, you will get like 20% more on top of that. But bear in mind that there are certain expenses that are mandatory in the UK. So your take home isn't 28,000 divided by 12 months. No. So pension, tax, and national insurance. So I'm going to explain what those are. So your take home salary from that is £1,797.72 a month. Now, pension, tax, national insurance. Let me give you a general overview of what those things are. So the NHS pension scheme is one of the best things about working within the NHS. It is quite unique for the UK. And I will try to explain what the NHS pension scheme is in a little while because it is super, super complicated. But just to let you know, if you're wondering, should I be part of the pension scheme or not? The answer is pretty much yes for now. And then obviously your circumstances might change where that might not be applicable. But basically from your salary, it's a pre-tax deduction, a certain percentage to be part of the scheme. And then when you retire, your NHS pension will kick in and you will get a certain amount of money every year for the rest of your life. Now, tax is tax. Again, regardless of where you live, I'm going to assume that you pay some sort of tax and it is mandatory basically. And in the UK, there's an extra tax on top of your normal tax, and that is national insurance. That covers things like the state pension. So that is different from your NHS pension. Again, if you're unemployed, you can claim job seekers. So it's very little though. It's about like £70 a week to help you find a job. And finally, your basic maternity will come out of national insurance. Again, that's very, very little. If you go on maternity, you're pretty much relying on your NHS maternity pay. But national insurance is mandatory, so there's no choice. For those of you guys that like numbers and you want to compare the tax rates in the UK to the tax rates in your own countries. So this is from the gov.uk website. Again, up to £12,000, you're not taxed. Up to £50,000, it's 20%. Over £50,000, any money that you make over £50,000 is taxed at 40%, whereas the money under £50,000 is taxed at 20%. And then over £150,000, you're taxed at 45%. These are the national insurance rates. Again, they make it just complicated for you by giving you a monthly salary. So if you make up to £4,189, you're paying 12% of your salary. But if you make more than that, it's 2%. Right. Okay. So can you explain the NHS pension scheme to me, please? So we can do a whole webinar on this. It is super, super complicated, but I'm just going to give you a very quick 30-second overview. Most pension schemes, you take money away from your salary and you put it into a pot. And if you're with a pension fund or that kind of thing, they will invest that money and that pot will grow and grow and grow and grow. And when you retire, you will be taking away from that pot. And hopefully that pot is enough before you die. Because obviously if you get rid of all that money before you die, well, you're pretty much broke. The NHS pension scheme is different. You sacrifice a certain percentage of your salary to be a member of the scheme. You subscribe to it. And basically what happens is that you will, at the end of it, get a pension entitlement, which is like a salary to the end of your life. So there's no pot that can suddenly disappear. You will just get a set salary based on how many years you worked in the NHS, and we're a member of the pension scheme. This is the cost of being a member of the NHS pension scheme. I would highly, highly recommend just sticking with that for now. And until you come to the UK, become really savvy with money, you might decide to opt out, but very few people opt out of the pension scheme. Let's see how financially savvy you guys are, because we know how much you'll be making as an FY1. You'll be making £28,000. Now, how much of my annual income should I spend on a car? So let's look at the value of the car. Should it be not more than 100%? Should it be not more than 50%? Not more than 35%? Or not more than 10%? So interestingly enough, I reflected on this when I was kind of looking at the PowerPoint yesterday. I didn't actually give you the option of spending more than 100% of your annual income because, yeah, it's like a really, really bad idea. And we will talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, you guys are really financially savvy, actually. So again, your personal circumstances will be different, but you shouldn't really spend more than 35% of your annual income on a car. And most of you guys decided that. And the ones that are, you guys that are really money savvy, yeah, you should probably just drive the cheapest car that you can. Right. So as you're an FY1, this is probably the car that you can afford. And this looks remarkably similar to the car that I used to drive as an FY1. I had a Kia Rio. So Dacia Sandero, one of the cheapest cars in the UK. If your salary is 28K, this car cost about 10K. So this is what you can buy. Right, it's time to level up again, guys. You're ready. You got through FY1. Again, they progressed you naturally, and you're going to get a pay rise. And it's actually pretty good if you think about it. Your basic salary jumps from 28,000 to 33,000. So you're going to get a sense, guys, that as you are progressing, as you are leveling up, the salary really increases, and it increases really fast. And so we're going to be showing you exactly how that increases over time. Again, your take home, you're making over £2,000 a month. Right now, what can I buy? So you're in FY2. At this point, maybe you're a bit settled in your job. You're getting much more confident. Maybe you have a partner. Maybe you guys are thinking of settling in the UK because you really like it here. Work-life balance is good. Pay is good. So what can you buy? Again, here's another question. How financially savvy are you guys? What mortgage can you afford? And this is your value to the annual income. So if you're making 30K, should you get a mortgage that is 60K? Should you go higher than that? Should you get a mortgage that is 300K? And again, this will vary depending on your personal circumstances. But this is just a ballpark figure in terms of what you can afford. The vast majority of you guys have chosen 3 to 4.5 times, which makes me think that you guys are really actually financially savvy, because that is the answer, quote unquote. There are no real right or wrong answers. This is just a guide, essentially. Right. Okay. So you might decide that you want to live in London, because London is a beautiful, busy city, metros, I mean, the tube, loads of museums, musicals, and that kind of thing. What can you buy in London? Well, as an FY2, you can probably buy a garbage can next to a wall. London is super, super, super expensive. And I'm going to be showing you guys what the cost of living in London is like. But let's level you up again. Come on, let's get you guys some more money. Some people decide that actually they're okay with that and they don't want to level up. So there is this idea of being an FY3. So that is not an official post. This is something that people use kind of in the hospital lingo. So you get up to your FY2 level, you finish your foundation year 2, and you decide, you know what, I want to travel a bit. I want to experience different hospitals. I'm not sure what specialty I want to go into. And a lot of people at that SHO level will be working as locums, and they'll be working in hospitals. Typically in A&E, you will see a lot of kind of FY3s doing locum shifts in A&E because, to be honest, A&E is super busy and they always need doctors. And in terms of locum rates, what can you expect as an SHO? Well, you're probably looking at around £30 an hour, sometimes more if they're desperate, again, sometimes less if you have a long-term contract with them. And people use this experience to travel. Again, a lot of UK doctors go to Australia, go to New Zealand. That might not be easy for you guys because you have medical school diplomas from countries outside of the UK and Ireland. You might have to pass extra exams for going to Australia or New Zealand, but you might want to travel to the UK. I mean, you might want to see what Scotland is like. I'll just spoil it for you. It rains all the time and it's super cold. But again, maybe you like that because it has beautiful nature and beautiful mountains and lakes and that kind of stuff, and amazing whiskey, obviously, if you're into whiskey. Right. So I decided to go into GP training. And this is my payslip. And I'm going to talk you through my payslip just to give you an idea of how much I was making and extra ways that you can actually boost your income. So again, this is standard hospital NHS payslip. I was working at Preston Hospital. I was a GP trainee, a GP ST. My basic salary was 30,000, and this was in 2015. So we're 6 years ahead, and I will show you that it has jumped considerably. And again, this is my basic pay. So for a month's work in A&E, I was making £2,500. Now, I explained to you about banding. So A&E is the most awful rotation ever because you're basically working weekends all the time. You're pretty much always working unsociable hours, and you're pretty much always on nights. So again, when I was working here, I did 7 nights in a row from the 23rd of December up until the 1st of January. So again, you're the junior, you're going to pick up all the rubbish shifts. So yeah, I couldn't spend Christmas Eve with my family or the Christmas night. But again, that's just what you got to do sometimes. So as you can see, because the rota was so awful, 50%. So on top of my £2,500, they gave me an extra £1,250. Now you can see here that I also did some locum work. And again, that came up to quite a bit. So even though I was working so much, again, I wanted to put in extra time just to make some extra money. So I was doing it in between the shifts that I had already. When you are part of the NHS, there are going to be little tricks to make extra money on top of that. And as you can see here, because I lived in Manchester and I was commuting to Preston, I was able to actually claim back mileage. And that worked out really well. It is a little bit of a faff. You have to kind of read your hospital guidelines, whether you can do that or not. But as you can see, yeah, it was a few £100s. So this was how much I was making. Now, that wasn't going straight into my pocket. Obviously, there are things you have to pay for, which we talked about already. Pay as you earn. So that is basically your tax. So on this amount of money, I was paying £1,130 of tax. Again, national insurance, it's not voluntary, it is mandatory, £300. To be part of the pension scheme, again, at my level, it's only 9.3%. So that was this much. Payslip distribution. So I was paying the trust 60 pence to give me my payslip every month. I mean, that is just highway robbery, to be honest. It was just like this dinky little piece of paper. But yeah, they charged 60 pence for it. So my net pay at this point was 3,524. And that's pretty good, isn't it? Obviously, I did a lot of locum shifts and I never saw my family because I was pretty much on weekends or nights all the time. Right. Okay. So that's your payslip. I hope that was useful for you guys. So you decide to actually go into GP training or into ST training to become a consultant. And again, big boost, as you can see here. So you're pretty much £10,000 better off than you were as an FY1, as the junior doctor, as the lowest level. And realistically, when you are FY1 and FY2, if you do start looking for a mortgage at that point, or you're thinking of buying property, a good mortgage advisor will be aware of this, that over the next few years, your pay scale will jump a lot. So they might actually recommend getting a house that is a bit more expensive because they know that in 2 years, you will be covering the mortgage payments easily through your natural progression within your career. So at this point, £39,000 and your take home is £2,335.